All right, so this will be my last lecture, and I was just talking about new movements and the concept of rehabilitation. All right, so the abolitionists, important because we're going to be moving into the issues of slavery as one of the sharpest, no, the sharpest dividing wedges between Americans that's going to eventually lead us to our Civil War. So abolition, or the abolitionists were a movement that wanted to abolish slavery. And if you remember in some of my lectures before, I talked about the fact that there was never really a mainstream debate or a debate about racism. There was a debate about slavery. In fact, I have not seen debates about slavery. About racism. I could be missing something, and if anybody happens to have a primary text on this or some books on the debate of racism taking place in the as the same thing as the debate of slavery, please send it to me. But essentially, what we do know is that most people who are against slavery would be, under our current standards, still considered racists. Okay, because they didn't see blacks as equal, and they didn't really see a place for blacks in American life. They didn't see them as African American because they didn't see them as American. And so what they thought then was the solution would be, and this is for many of them, is to send them back to Africa or to the Caribbean. So in 1817, white Virginians created an American Colonization Society. And the idea, is for helping blacks to resettle somewhere else. In 1830, they established the nation of Liberia. This is something you should look up, which is really interesting, is that this is an African nation that was created in hopes of returning black slaves to this land to create a place to basically get rid of all the blacks out of America and send them back to where they came from, so to speak. Although that wasn't necessarily where they all came from. And if you look at the capital, Monrovia, it's named after Monroe, as in, President Monroe, okay, the Monroe Doctrine, remember? Yeah. And so, look up Liberia and you'll see a very strange, well, strange isn't the right word. It's something that should be linked to this, and you see the way in which Americans really couldn't conceive of whites and blacks being able to have a place with each other. Okay, and they weren't interested in giving them a colony in the United States, but to send them back to Africa, so to speak. Okay, so something important to bring out. So we're gonna move on to talking about Frederick Douglass. I'm having you read part of his autobiography. In fact, I have the link for it, and I said look it over. I mean, read as much as you can. It's long. I'm just saying you can skim it over. But I'm going to show you a documentary now. And I think it's important because all too often, we have these stories in American films in particular of even, of black people being saved by white people, so to speak. The idea that because majority of slaves couldn't read and write, we're not able to really tell their story, and so they're kind of almost pawns in a discussion even about slavery, as if they had no voice or thoughts about it themselves, because we're hearing white people who defend slavery and white people who are opposed to slavery, but then the slaves themselves, where do they fit into this dialogue? Well, This is where Frederick Douglass comes in. And you know, it's a very important American figure. So I am going to leave in this section on a documentary clip about him, and hopefully you'll find this edifying, and you will see how many of the things that will be addressed here are going to pop up later very shortly in terms of the direction America is heading at this time. All right, so that is the end of this section for this week.